There actually is no such thing as a silent film. They didn't call these films silent when they were released. We call them silent films today because we are so accustomed to a full soundtrack that these earlier movies seem incomplete. But when these movies were released, that was what a movie was. There was no sync dialogue, but there were sound effects. Generally speaking, unless we're talking about silent cinema in a film history class, you don't really show a silent picture. But this is kind of a rare opportunity for me to walk you through what a silent film is and what it must have been like to see one. Today we're going to see a film from 1929 entitled Blackmail. It was the last of Hitchcock's silent films, and the reason I'm showing it is that it transitioned from silent films to sound pictures very cleanly. This film, like The Jazz Singer in America, The Jazz Singer came out in 1927, I think. It was shot first as a silent movie, or I should say, it was shot without sync dialogue. And then when they realized that sound pictures were very lucrative, they reshot certain scenes for dialogue. So as is the case of a lot of films that were made at the end of the 20s, you get some parts of the movie that seem to be pantomimed by the actors, okay? It was meant to be silent. Sometimes you'll even see their lips move on screen and there's no audible dialogue. And then there's newer footage that looks like it was shot on a different camera that does have sync sound to it. So I want you to experience that. So I'm sure with Snapchat, Instagram, you guys have been exposed to what these things look like. But I wanted you guys to experience silent pictures via tonight's movie because it transitions us from silent to non-silent. In silent pictures, there definitely was music. Originally, a live person playing the piano. Sometimes that person playing the piano or a different crew of sound guys would be making sound effects like a Foley artist might to accompany the picture. And then once Vitaphone technology came into play, they started to play back movie soundtracks via a cylinder or a phonograph. They would attempt to manually synchronize sound and picture at the same time, but it was done by a person live in the room, like a DJ from back in the day. Projector starts and then sound follows. It was a pretty exciting medium because you could go to a screening and the sound could be completely off sync. Or you could go in and the sound would start before the picture. You never knew what you were going to get. It had the vibe of a live performance. Almost every inch of this film is covered in music. During the silent film era, musical scores ran the entire duration of the film. So if the movie was 80 minutes long, the composer had to write 80 minutes of music, almost like the way John Williams would write a score now, right? A Star Wars movie is, 2 hours? He writes 2.5 hours of music. The music is very over the top. The music is very, very, very overwrought and dramatic. It's like a Wagnerian opera, very much like Debussy, Wagner, Mendelssohn, all these big classical composers. And then 10 years later, no one wrote movie scores like this anymore, because people were talking. And then everything became jazz. One of the advantages of quote-unquote silent cinema was the director could shout directions at you while the film was running. So while people shot these movies, while the take was going, you would have a construction crew building a set in the other room. In the early 1920s, in the late 1910s, it was very, very customary for actors to be performing a very tender scene, and in the next room, somebody's sewing drapes and making costumes and walking around with high-heeled shoes. Today's film was shot by Hitchcock in the silent film manner. Meaning that during the middle of the take, you'll sometimes see the actors kind of looking off camera, like they'll be doing their scene and they'll look off camera and then look back down because the director's like yelling instructions to the actor. And the actor's getting visibly distracted and they just kept the take. And some of the raw footage of a silent movie, sometimes you'll get shots of actors looking directly at the camera, right? Because they thought that the take was over. So you're gonna see a combination of silent footage and non-silent footage. The silent footage, you can tell right away because the picture looks a little bit more grainy than the newer stuff. The actors in a silent film tended to be very dramatic. They exaggerated their emotions. If you're gonna yawn like this. If you're gonna draw your gun, you're gonna draw it like this. Everything was very, very big, dramatic. Now, the footage where you could tell that they were recording sound on set, the acting was very withdrawn. The actors look visibly shy, and everything is just very intimate. And it's kind of funny to see a patchwork of both types of filmmaking in one movie. The first shot of this film that has dialogue in it, which is not going to happen until 8 minutes into the movie, is two cops walking away from camera. okay? And their backs are to the lens, so you can't see their lips move, which is kind of genius on Hitchcock's part, right? Because he knew at some point during the filming that maybe we should have shot sound. So what he did was he filmed people from the back of their head, dialogue scenes where the camera is on people's hands and feet, so that if you dubbed in a voice, it didn't matter if it was out of sync. Filming sound was a very, very different endeavor because now you had to be quiet on the set. And Hitchcock had a problem with his main actor. His main actress was a woman by the name of Anny Ondra, and she was not British. She was from Czechoslovakia. And although she knew how to speak English, she had a very thick Eastern European accent. With the sound tech that they had then, they were aware that understanding the words was an issue. The Brits were watching these films. If you had an accent, they didn't understand what was going on, they walked out of the picture. So what did Hitchcock have to do? He brought the actress back and he said, look, we're gonna redo your scenes for sound, but we're not gonna use your voice. Another actress is gonna dub in your voice. So they hired a woman by the name of Joan Barry. She stood next to the camera, okay? Like probably around where, you know, that guy is kneeling. She stood there and she watched Anny Ondra act out and she mouthed the words from the script exactly in time with the actress on camera. It was not synced up after the fact. Everything was basically performed live. And when you watch it today, it's actually quite stunning that they got it pretty close. Film production was very, very, very fast during this time. If you ask anyone who's ever been on a film set, the reason why people hate on the sound guys is because recording sound on set takes the most time out of the film day. If you have ever taken a film class at any community college, your first project is probably going to be a silent film because they want to get you used to how the camera operates unencumbered by the sound gear. And if you guys have ever shot a silent film on your own, you guys know that if you don't have to worry about the sound, you can basically catch anything you want. You can film out of a moving car, you can film something on the side of a freeway, you can film something on a boat. Doesn't matter, right? Because you can replace the sound later. And so when silent films were being made, I mean, they made like 6 pictures a day. Like an actor would act on one set, and they would clock out and then just walk 2 feet over to the next studio and act in another movie. They would take care of all this in one workday. After sound, not so much, right? After sound became a thing, one movie would take pretty much half the day. They still shot pretty quickly, but things definitely slowed down. 2 pictures a day, maybe, 3 pictures if you're lucky. So sound bogged everything down, but it was definitely worth it. This is a very truncated timeline of the latter half of the 1920s, which was a huge, huge decade for cinema. This was the decade where everything transitioned from silent movies to sound pictures. This is just like a timeline of Hitchcock's movies, from his short films to the film that we're going to watch today. The Mountain Eagle is a Hitchcock movie that people still think exists, but to this date, no one has been able to find it. But Hitchcock, I think, had a hand in destroying all the existing copies because he was not very happy with the movie. But in 1925, he makes his first picture. 4 years later, he makes this movie that basically wins him the right to go to America and make films. They called these new movies talkies. And the biggest problem with the talkies was actually not even the fact that they had to reshoot them all. It was that they had to figure out who was going to voice the actor. The most expensive and laborious part of reshooting things for sound was the voices. Hitchcock loved point of view. Point of view is when you position the camera next to where an actor's head might be and you film what they see. There's a shot in today's film where a woman finds herself in trouble in a man's apartment, and she looks outside the window and she sees a policeman, and she wishes that she could call out to the policeman to help her. And the way the policeman is shot is from a high angle down to the street level, because that is the actress's point of view. He wanted you to get into the mind of the character. The movie was very, very real. It shows a corner of society that isn't very savory. It depicts what we would call today a sexual assault and what happens to the perpetrator. The police get involved. The subject matter is dark, but what's interesting is that we've been telling the story over and over and over again for years and years and years, and we can go back to 1929 to see an example of a filmmaker who filmed a story like this from a girl's perspective. Blackmail was a sensation. Starred a beautiful actress, and it was a movie that was focused on the feminine perspective. It was a film that shone light on an aspect of society, a side of the police force that was unsavory, showed polite society, wealthy people, as being very, very corrupt. Pretty remarkable. The action scenes. There's several scenes where cops are chasing criminals. So much fun. These are the same movies that we make now. And a lot of the side-to-side motion, when cars are chasing each other on the street laterally, they shot that footage with a very fast frame rate. So the action is sped up. Okay, this was very, very, very normal during this time. It makes the excitement of the car chase real, right? The way you did it in the 1920s was you shot with the camera at a slower frame rate so that the action was faster. And this is one of the first movies where you actually see Hitchcock. You see him on the train. If you guys don't know about this about Hitchcock, he loves to make a cameo in his own movies. Today's film, you can see him on the train for a very long time, actually. You guys are great today. I love the questions. I like the excitement level in the room. Let's take a quick break. Let's do 12 minutes, okay? So come back, please, at 37 after, and we'll begin the film Blackmail. It's about 85 minutes long. Thank you very much.